I don't know if you've heard me speaking, but it's very experiential. It's very, I'm sure, quite controversial. It's very immature, violent, terrifying, profound, serious, not so serious. It reminds me of Picasso's Guernica, which that painting, which is one of my favorite paintings at the time when it came out, was very controversial, but depicted war and the whole Nazi regime and what they did to that little town in Spain. And this film depicts what all of us are kind of doing to our society and having willful ignorance and not wanting to look. Richard Kelly makes you look. And it's the world of pornography, celebrity, politics, energy crisis, all coming together in one chaotic film.
These are the sordid tales of how it all came crashing down.
Welcome back to the Southlands. This is our final stop in the Southland Tales universe through the form of a graphic novel. The next episode will be breaking down Krista Now's script The Power, and then the following 3 episodes will be the 3 chapters from the film. This issue in particular will lead us right into the film. This issue is called The Mechanicals. The Mechanicals was released on January 31st, 2007, and was written by Richard Kelly and illustrated by Brett Welderly. It is July 2nd, 2008. Senator Bobby Frost and his wife are on their way to the Southland, as it is the last stop on their campaign trail. Unfortunately, they were unaware of this. Madeline Frost Santeros, who is played by Mandy Moore in the film, calls her father Bobby Frost and tells him of Boxer's disappearance. Boxer has been missing for 5 days since June 27th. The relationship of Boxer and Madeline Frost had advanced many careers, both in Hollywood and politics, but the downfall of their relationship could also be the downfall of many others. On the day of Boxer's disappearance, him and Madeline went to a charity scavenger hunt on the Santa Monica Pier. Like I've stated before, I don't think this art style fits the story, because sometimes it's hard to tell who the characters are supposed to be, but we'll push forward anyway. We're introduced to Van Smallhouse, who is introducing fluid karma to the Southland. One thing I want to mention is that going forward I'll be using terms from previous chapters without really explaining it, since I did so in previous chapters, so I highly recommend starting at chapter 1 and then continuing through. Anyway, we're told that Von Smallhouse is one of the most powerful people in the world, and he invented fluid karma. He is also a descendant of Karl Marx's widow. There's also an insight on the different perspectives of Karl Marx. Some call him a communist, and some call him a great philosopher. Bobby Frost is pretending to distance himself from big oil so the Republican Party can win California for the first time since 1988. Madeline is blackmailed to not question him, or he'll reveal that she's been cheating on Boxer Santoros with Robert's assistant, Brant Huntington. It's honestly hilarious that Boxer even has a wife, considering all the things he's done in the first 2 chapters. It's also hilarious that his wife is actually cheating on him as well. Boxer and Baron von Westphalen are beginning their scavenger hunt. Boxer is also promoting Trier and saying how easy they have made it to transfer to a car that doesn't need fuel. Boxer has a little mechanical ball which is an antenna for fluid karma. Baron has an obsession with Dungeons and Dragons, so he says his dungeon master has the mechanical balls across the Southland. Boxer is doing the first clue, and when he arrives at clue number 2, the race will then be open to the public, and the person who discovers where the final mechanical ball is located will win a 2008 Trier Saltaire. But someone is waiting for Boxer to arrive at where the first mechanical ball is located, and their orders are to kidnap Boxer and take him to the Nevada desert. Back at the Trier Plaza, General Tina MacArthur is in the process of inspecting the body that they found in the Trier Saltaire. The experiment is shrouded in secrecy, so even she doesn't know who it is. So she calls her friend and nemesis, Simon Theory, who is played by Kevin Smith in the film, to help her. Tina asks Simon to identify the body, but Simon refuses. Tina also asks who was hired to take Boxer to the desert, if the body is a civilian or a soldier, and why he was burnt alive. And Simon tells her that the information is classified. We cut to Venice Beach, which is a safe ground for the neo-marxist underground. Ronald Tavener has given up on eating because no matter how much he eats, nothing ever comes out. He thinks that him and his brother should be taken to a hospital because something is wrong with them. Ronald's brother Roland is back at their compound being watched by Kenny Chan, who is a computer programmer. He was once hired by US Ident to hack into their system to build new firewalls, but they were unaware that he was working with the neo-marxist to route it outside of US Ident to a network called USI Death. Bing Zimmerman is also working with Kenny. Every time US Ident builds a new firewall, Bing can build a bigger one. He's also implanted viruses into the network. Bing asks Kenny about the hostage, Roland Taverner. Kenny kind of recaps the first 2 books here. Ronald is with Zora and is going to impersonate Roland. Boxer Santoros thinks he wrote The Power, but Krista wrote it, and Boxer is going to star and direct the film. He's playing a cop named Jericho Kane, and Ronald Taverner seems disturbed to hear the name Jericho Kane again. We cut to Fortunio Balducci, who has grown obsessed with the script The Power. Him, Krista, and Boxer are staying at a beach house. There's a 20-page section in the book where it's just a screenplay for The Power, and like I said, I'm going to cover that in another episode. Fortunio gets a call from Serpentine, who knows that Boxer and Krista are with him. She gives him the job of arranging a meeting between Boxer and Roland Taverner. Boxer is watching Kiss Me Deadly. Krista tells him that it's his favorite film, and he based the character of Jericho Kane off of Mike Hammer. Side note, Kiss Me Deadly is one of my favorite movies, and I might touch upon the influences of it in Southland Tales further down the line. But anyway, Mike Hammer was a cop who didn't play by the rules, and neither is Jericho Kane. Insert hanky-panky. So Dream and Dion, aka the neo-marxist, explain their plan to Ronald. He has to impersonate his brother and go on a ride along with Boxer. Boxer is going to be recording him because he's studying the job of a police officer for his role as Jericho Kane. Ronald is to drop the N-word on video. Ronald isn't racist, so he's against it, but the neo-marxist insists that he play the role of a racist cop, and if he doesn't, they're going to turn his brother over into US Ident. There's even more to this plan, and it gets crazier. Dream and Dion are going to stage a domestic dispute, and when Ronald and Boxer arrive, Ronald will pretend to shoot and kill them. It will be a brutal double murder committed by a racist cop, and since Boxer is involved and it's on tape, it will look bad for his political ties. We're now at the opening of a new US Ident facility in LA. We briefly meet Dennis Vugler, who is a hacker recruited by Kenny. At the neo-Marxist headquarters, Roland is still tied up. This is where we get a little more info on Fluid Karma, the drug. When injected, it pretty much turns the human body into a receiver for the Fluid Karma energy field. There are many side effects, but the US military has been using it on soldiers. They learned that soldiers could communicate telepathically. They originally claimed to be hearing voices, but realized that the voices were other soldiers on the drug. Roland Taverner starts singing all these things that I've done by the killers before he's injected and knocked out. We briefly see a face that haunts Roland's dreams, and it looks vaguely similar to the lead singer of NSYNC. They call it friendly fire, but Private Taverner couldn't forgive himself. There's a brief stop at Simon from earlier who mentions that US Ident and the neo-Marxists are on the verge of one final confrontation, and Trier is manipulating them. And Tina hints that there is a trigger that will result in this final confrontation, but it's something that hasn't been discovered yet. We go back to Ronald, and he asks a little bit about Dream and Dion. She says that they released 4 folk albums, including their latest release, Milking the Dog. They're also in the process of bringing their tantric dance to Broadway, which is dancing while fucking. Boxer's wife Madeline and her family are being interviewed, but on their way there they mention the new Mega Zeppelin. Madeline seems to think it's a death trap that will kill her father, but her father does not buy it. During the interview, they're asked about Boxer's whereabouts. Vaughn Smallhouse, who is an advisor to Bobby Frost, says that he's at a fundraiser. The interviewer, Dr. Linda Lau, is known for asking the hard questions. She asked them about the war, and since it isn't ending, what they expect to do to resolve it. And their answer is prayer. Their hope is to spread Christianity worldwide, which will lead to the return of Jesus Christ. It's pretty funny how it cuts from this to Boxer and Krista banging in front of Kiss Me Deadly. Krista tells Boxer that no matter what happens over the next 3 days, it had to be this way. Ronald finds the letter belonging to his brother from his friend Pilot Abilene. Zora tells him that it's none of his business who Pilot Abilene is, but Ronald wants to know more about his past.
Zora tells him that he was an actor, and he met them when they joined a sketch comedy troupe. They called themselves the Lighthouse Gang, but in the picture, it says that Ronald is Roland. Zora insists that it's just a typo. Ronald starts to worry that he's being lied to, but Zora invites him to the comedy show, hoping that it will remind him of his past. Also at this comedy show, apparently they're oxygening off a thumb. They're in high demand because of the way fingerprints are used in this world. The book series finally introduces us to Pilot Abilene, played by Justin Timberlake, who is one of my favorite characters in the film. When we're introduced to him, he says that if he's drafted to war, he'll cut off his thumb. But this is a flashback, and it turns out that he is a veteran of the War of Iraq, so he didn't cut off his thumb. Him and many others know that the end is near, so they turned an arcade into a nightclub for soldiers who were stationed to protect Utopia 3. Pilot Abilene was born in Abilene, Texas. I'm not sure why he was named after his hometown, but he ended up moving to LA when he was 8, and he wanted to be an actor. His first role was alongside boxer Santoros. He played Donnie, not Darko, who was a teen runaway who held a dark secret. He became a movie star almost overnight, but then he was drafted to Iraq. It's interesting how he compares this to Elvis's time in the war, except here he says Elvis had it easy, and they sent Pilot to Baghdad. Everyone called him Pretty Boy Abilene and thought he was a pussy, and he responded by killing people to prove them wrong. One night, Pilot Abilene is reading poetry, and he meets Roland Taverner. From that moment on, they became inseparable. On December 14th, 2007, they talk about the Book of Revelations, and Pilot talks about how he just wants the world to end. They then see a mega Zeppelin approaching Iraq. It's Simon and Tina who are escorting the Trier executives into Iraq. There's a brief mention of a plane that was traveling from LA to Dallas, where everyone on the plane was struck with amnesia, except for Krista Now. There was an aberration the size of Texas that messed with everyone on the plane. It's something more powerful than fluid karma, and it's a transmission of intelligent design from the Serpent Trench, which we'll get back to. Roland and Pilot become aware of serpentine dream theory from a man named Falcon. It's an experiment on soldiers. They don't know what it is, but they know when they're done they'll be sent home. Falcon brings them to Simon so they can volunteer, but they don't take volunteers. Pilot has brought him opium, and they play a card game for the opportunity to be experimented on. They win, and they're taken to the Mega Zeppelin for the experiment. They're told it's called fluid karma. It's a solution that's found deep below the Earth's surface in the Serpent Trench. In the early days of his research, Baron von Westphalen broke through a wall on the outer rim of Earth's mantle. The machine was submerged in a strange fluid, and they sent it back for research. The liquid called fluid karma went down for miles into the Earth's surface. It was a deep trench that wrapped around the Earth's core like a snake guarding an egg. When the liquid was exposed to Earth's oxygen, it created an energy field. Wireless electricity, the cure for our sickness. The next day, Roland and Pilot go on a mission, pumped with what they call the Elixir of God. They agree that if they die, they would rather die together than alone. Pilot is scared to get dropped in on a wire, so a soldier offers him their iPod to calm his nerves. Remember when those things existed? He listens to the song All These Things That I've Done by the Killers. Later, this song will be featured in one of the greatest scenes in the film and in cinematic history. They're dropped in, and the fluid karma has spiked the soldiers' adrenaline. They're able to communicate telepathically, but all the voices together are useless and it confuses them. Roland throws a grenade, but the explosions send shrapnel into the side of Pilot's face. It's actually a very emotional scene, as it seems like Pilot is dying, but as we know in the film, he doesn't. For being just one page, it's very emotional. Roland is apologizing to Pilot and tells him that he never meant to hurt him, and this will be the last time they saw each other. Pilot knows that Roland had been taken hostage by the neo-marxists, and he knows that Simon Theory knows what will happen to him. The players had been chosen, the timeline defined, a gateway to salvation had been found. Tina MacArthur tells Simon that they're receiving a system shutdown from Utopia 3. They've pulled too much fluid karma from the Serpent Trench, and it's slowed the Earth's rotation. Simon thinks that the primer, the cause of the end of the world, will show itself in 3 days. The neo-marxists are at their rally/thumb auction/comedy club thing. They're auctioning off a thumb for the election because that's how they vote in this world. The plan is to use the thumb to vote and keep passing it along so people can vote hundreds of thousands of times. Bing Zimmerman sells his thumb for $50,000. Krista tells her friends Shoshana, Sheena, and Dina that the Now Girls, that's what they call themselves I guess, have been booked to dance on the Mega Zeppelin by Baron von Westphalen. They automatically think that she slept with him, but that's not true. She says that she did some undercover work for him and picked up a man in the desert, and we all know who that is. The girls want to meet this man, but she has to keep it a secret, but she says he's now on the beach. Boxer is walking the beach, and he can no longer disconnect himself from Jericho Kane. Jericho Kane had infected his soul. He injects himself with fluid karma and sings the song 3 Days by Jane's Addiction, and he murmurs 3 days until he passes out. Fortunio confronts Krista outside the bar and wants to know about Serpentine Dream Theory. She tells him that Serpentine is the mistress of the Great Wizard, who some call the Antichrist, and Baron von Westphalen is the Antichrist. Krista tells him Revelations 22:3, "For it will never be night again, and they would not need lamplight or sunlight, for the Lord will be shining on them, and they shall reign forever and ever." And we close the prequel saga with Boxer Santoros passed out on the beach, and that's where we'll pick up in the film. So that was the prequel saga to Southland Tales. I hope you've enjoyed this journey with me, and I hope you guys will continue to stick around as the next chapter will dig into the script The Power, and then we'll dig into the 3 chapters of the film. I'm going to try to get them out faster than I have been and keep this thing moving because I absolutely love doing this. Please subscribe and like and all that YouTube stuff. And I also host a podcast called Santa Mira After Dark where we talk about movies every single week. So please check that out and please keep supporting this video and sharing it. I do appreciate all the love and support that this series has got. And that's the way the prequel saga ends. Not with a whimper, but with a bang.